I'm gonna pull up my screen because I think this is pretty freaking cool. United Airlines has put in an order for 15 supersonic jets from a manufacturer called Boom Supersonic. Um, Interestingly enough, Boom Supersonic has never made a jet before. We were laughing about that before we started recording. But
Manufacture.
yeah, right. They're not yet a manufacturer. They want to be a manufacturer. So here we are. The Concorde's before my time for the most part, but I've seen them before, and that looks a heck of a lot like a Concorde, doesn't it, Todd?
It's almost like they took a picture and they just used some Photoshop to change the color. It was just,
They might
right
have.
United on the side.
Yeah, they might have. Wouldn't surprise me. So
But
I just wanted to.
yeah, I never got to ride on one, and they were crazy, stupid expensive. And I imagine that these won't be cheap either. That I don't think
Right.
they're probably not going to have. Probably be very narrow, 1 to 2 seats each side. If maybe even just 1 seat each side, and probably more towards business class. But it's kind of cool to think, Joe, of being able to. I mean, I love the concept. Get to Europe in just a few hours.
Yeah, I was always amazed when I learned about the Concorde, and that it was in service for decades, and then they got rid of it, and now we just don't have that, and it just takes twice as long to get to Europe. Like, it makes absolutely no sense to me that they couldn't find a better way to like manage the noise pollution that was going on over places like New York. So I don't know what their proposed solution is to this, but I gotta say it's really interesting. We've been hearing rumors about this for months or even years. I know there are some people that I subscribe to on YouTube who are pretty big into aviation, and they've been kind of dissecting some rumors off and on for at least a year. So it'll be interesting to see what's going to be different from the previous generation, if they have a better way of managing sonic booms. I don't really know how you get around that, but it'll be fun to see, because I imagine that there would be demand for the biggest issue, I if I recall correctly, was back in the day they couldn't fly these planes out of inland airports. So they couldn't fly out of like Chicago or Dallas or Moscow because of the noise pollution. So they would have to fly out of like New York or Boston or LA. And I don't think they're gonna have any like newfangled way to get around that. But still, would be very cool to get to Europe in 3 hours. And I just wanted to bring that up because
Yeah, well, I'm just looking
it'll be
at their
fun to watch.
website. Obviously not publicly traded, so we can't do anything with that. Blake Shaw is the founder and CEO. It looks like his chops include leadership roles at Amazon and Groupon, so it's not like he's coming from Boeing. So yeah, I mean, I suppose if you throw enough money at something, you can get the right talent in place and make this happen. Usually, and we've seen this in the research, in our industry research, aerospace is very strong. So the way I usually play aerospace isn't through the airlines. As Buffett famously joked that, you want to get poor, you buy an airline. He kind of deviated from that a few years ago and bought some airline stocks for his portfolio.
Right, I was about to say.
Yeah, but he's on record for decades of swearing off the industry. And my favorite way to play airlines isn't the actual to play aerospace or air travel isn't the airlines itself, although there are a few that are high scoring that are interesting. It's more to play the manufacturers. So a name that I own, for example, would be TransDigm, symbol TDG. But there's a whole bunch of them in the basket right now, in the aerospace parts basket. I think that would be my favorite, especially since they're not even. I think the first delivery wouldn't even be till, what was it, Joe? 2020.
I think it was 2025 at least.
Yeah, I think that's an aggressive goal. So
yeah, that does sound aggressive. Hold on, let me. Yeah,
And
rolled out in 2025. Oh, okay. Expected to carry passengers by 2029. Okay, that makes more sense.
so
So
yeah,
they're
we're
going to
talking.
be rolling them off the production line in 2025, testing them for the next few years to make sure that, they don't fall apart in the sky because they've never made a plane before.
Yeah,
Important
well, even
things.
that doesn't even the companies that do make planes.
Right, important things, especially if you're going to be flying around the rich and famous across oceans. So yeah, it'll be another one of many very interesting things to watch over the next decade. And I think
Heck, by that time, Joe, they might actually be doing the space tourism. I mean, I don't know when.
yeah, I mean, gee, they've only been talking about space tourism for 10 years now. Maybe they'll finally have their act together
I
at
mean,
20
Virgin
years after.
Galactic and Blue Origin and SpaceX. I mean, they get getting closer and closer and closer. I think to having, people on board on those things. It's hard to believe that by 2029 you wouldn't at least be having some flights with people on it, unless, of course,
Didn't Virgin Galactic say that they're sending up like their first passengers this year?
I don't know. I know that obviously the pilots have been into space, so I mean
Yeah,
they're making progress. I
their
almost
planes
feel a
don't
little
fall
bit.
apart.
I almost feel a little bit like it's the kind of like the Tesla autonomous driving, though. It's like, I mean, it's very aspirational, right?
Absolutely.
Have this by blank date, right? but delivering on that goal, that's a totally different animal.
Yeah, it's definitely not one that you want to bet on. I would not be putting any of my hard-earned dollars into whatever they're calling themselves, Boom Aerospace, Boom Supersonic. I would not be putting any of my hard-earned money into Boom Supersonic if they ever went public via
Yeah, I'd have to
via
see. I'd have to
SPAC
at
or
least
whatever else.
see. Yeah. I mean, even with like Virgin Galactic, I mean, I own Space SPCE, and then but I didn't buy that until I at least had a good feeling that they were going to be able to successfully have something that worked.
Right. Even
Oh.
still, I'm not so sure sometimes.
You don't want to, invest. This is important, listeners. You don't need to be the first one. I mean, sure, everybody loves to tell the story about how they bought Amazon at, the first week it opened and they held it for a 40 bazillion% return. You don't need to. You can wait and still make plenty of money. People who bought Amazon, even in the past decade, are up 100, 200% plus. So, I mean, you don't need to be the first one on board. You can let somebody else make what I call the hard money.
Yeah, the riskier money too.
Yeah.
Yeah,